I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
And a very good Thursday morning to you wherever you are. Hope you're enjoying your day and glad you're starting your day with us. Welcome in. We are Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr. For those of you that are not watching on ESPN2 but listening on ESPN Radio, Junior, you're wearing a hat. We're indoors. Why are you wearing a hat as we're inside a comfy studio here?
Bomb cyclone, man. You can never be too careful. The way I see it is we're in the casino right now. I got into work at 3:15 in the morning.
Right.
Hadn't really started snowing yet. I don't know what I'm getting ready to face out there, so I stay ready. You don't have to get ready that way.
Yeah, for those, he doesn't have like a baseball cap. He's got a knit hat on.
A knit cap.
Actually from the Pinstripe Bowl that you and I wore last year because it was freezing in the makeshift booth that they made for us.
And because the hat was free.
Yeah, and Booger stood in that one this year, and he doesn't handle the cold very well.
No, Tampa guy not really built for that where you are out in that. So felt for him, Kevin, and Mac.
I did hear that you didn't have a brush, like the brush the snow off thing in your car. So I brought one for you today.
Wait, what did you? A brush
thingy?
A brush the snow off thing off your car?
The
scraper.
Well, it has a scraper on it and a brush.
It's called a snow brush or snow scraper.
Okay,
good.
All right, snow brush.
The brushy thing
Got
that
one
you
of those
take
in
the
there?
stuff
I have
off
a
your
snow
car
brush / scraper on my desk for you since you're 28 years old. You didn't feel you needed to have one in your car when there's going to be 12 inches that dump on us right now.
There was foul play involved here because I know I had one in there.
Yeah.
Because I was there talking with you because you reprimanded me about it. And so I said, okay, I'm going to remedy this. And then somewhere along the way, someone decided to pilfer it. So between that,
Could be your roommate. Oh, that's right. Wait, you live alone.
There you go.
Man, all right.
I think
Could be who you share the car with. Oh, you don't share it with anybody. Who took it? Who took it?
Listen, I park at your guys' house enough. You got sticky fingers over there.
I got 20 of those scrapers around the house, as you well know. I don't need to take one out of your car. I got scrapers and filters all over the house.
Could have been you. Jake and Sydney make trips back home. I don't really trust any of you guys, all right?
Well, you're not alone there. So we'll figure that out as we go forward. By the way, for those of you that are not on the East Coast, there is something called a bomb cyclone that is hitting everywhere from Florida all the way up to Maine. And it's sort of this massive storm that's coming off the East Coast and affecting everybody. It's affecting us so much that we're going to have Ginger Z, ABC's chief meteorologist, and does a great job on Good Morning America. She worked with us on NFL Live during Super Bowl 48 at downtown. That was in New York. So she'll join us to talk.
She's
a
also
little
mad at both of us.
She probably is because I don't believe in wind chill, and you apparently don't believe in meteorology.
Well, I got my degree last night online.
There it is.
So
there it is.
I'm a weatherman.
Oh,
funny how that worked.
Oh, that's so bad.
I'm kidding.
Unrelenting trolls.
If you think the bomb cyclone is bad, wait till the meteorological cyclone that Ginger's going to rain down on your house.
Do you think there's like a meteorologist union right now that's somewhere just stewing?
Yes, because you have to get an AMS seal, an American Meteorological Society seal, to be considered a meteorologist.
I want to imagine that as like some sort of cult Illuminati meeting where you have to come in and
like the Da Vinci Code?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're all wearing hoods and masks. There's
I'm not
some
sort of. What was that seal? I printed one of those up last night too.
You did not.
So I'm good.
You did not. Okay.
I'm all set.
She'll join us to talk about the weather, maybe how it might impact some of the games this weekend. Stu Gotts will join us in the 8 o'clock hour. Adam Schefter will be here at 8:30, and Paul Feinbaum, from the SEC Network. He is having none of the fun that the rest of us are having as UCF celebrates their mythical national championship.
Yeah. I really want to see. I want to see a Paul Feinbaum float at the UCF championship parade, just spewing fire and throwing takes everywhere,
like Drogon.
He'd
be with the Drogon on the parade.
Exactly.
Just having none of it. He is not as enthused.
No, he's not.
As we are. About UCF celebrating this.
He's not playing well in the sandbox here with this.
He does not get along well with others on this topic.
But there are those that are thinking UCF takes it a little too far. We'll get into that in a little bit.
I think UCF's AD probably thinks he's taking it a little too far now Wow, now he's got to pay up.
Yeah,
We'll get into that as well. It's one of two parades we'll be talking about a little bit later on the show for literally completely different reasons.
Yes.
We'll get into all of that and get you set on everything else that's going on in the NBA, the NFL, everything you need to know. But we start, as we always do, with this.
It's time for Off the Top
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
with Golic and Wingo.
All right, we start off the top in college basketball as Trae Young, Team Trae, recorded his sixth career 25-point 10-assist game in Oklahoma's 109-89 win over Oklahoma State on Wednesday.
Yeah, he goes for 27 points and 10 assists in that one, and it only one of 6 from three-point land, so he wasn't hitting from downtown, but also set a school record for most consecutive 20-point games, recorded his 12th game Wednesday, passing Stacey King and Wayman Tisdale. That's pretty nice, passing that company there. But Oklahoma overall doing better this year, 12th win of the season. You know, won 11 last year. They're scoring 100 at a high clip this year. So it's a pretty strong man leading the way there.
Yeah, 100 points for the 5th time this season after scoring 100 points 5 times in their last 12 seasons.
Yeah.
So things have turned around a little bit. I mean, this feels like the most momentum for Oklahoma basketball since the Griffin brothers were there, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I can't really remember Oklahoma is ranked 7th in the country right now, especially in the Big 12 that's been so usually forgotten as just Kansas's conference, and then you look away as Bill Self and them hoist the crown yet again. A lot of season to go, but Oklahoma making it interesting.
And Trae Young making it interesting, and Kansas losing 3 home games already this year.
Yeah.
Now, the Sooners did make it to the Final Four 2 years ago, but you're right. They haven't had that sort of...
That star player kind of hanging their hat on.
Exactly. And to the point about Young's records... his 6th career 25-point 10-assist game, that's the most by any major conference player in the last 20 seasons, and it just took him 13 games to get there. So this kid is really making a difference and off to a great start. We continue.
Off the Top
With more college basketball. How about Marquette's Marcus Howard? Became the 5th major conference player to score 50 points in a game in the last 20 seasons on Wednesday. Only Arizona State's Eddie House, remember him?
Oh, I sure do.
And Kentucky's Jody Meeks have scored more points in a game than Howard's 52 in that span.
Yeah, House had 61 for Arizona State, Meeks 54 for Kentucky. Howard set the Marquette school record for and tied the Big East record for most points in a conference game. Marshawn Brooks from Providence in 2010 scored 52 as well. So Marcus Howard, a big night in the zone, as they say.
Yeah, I would say the most recent outburst of this kind since Doug McDermott back in 2013-14, 45 for the Blue Jays of Creighton, and was 2016 Big East All-Freshman team member. Biggest career high before that was like 34. So guy can ball, no doubt about it.
Not only that, but his performance yesterday matched the Big East record, as you said, for most points in a conference game. So great job by Marcus Howard, and we'll see what happens with him as the season continues to play out.
Off the Top.
We move on to the NBA now. Kyrie Irving only had 11 points, but doesn't matter because his Celtics beat his former team for the first time after Boston held Cleveland to a season-low 88 points in Boston Wednesday night.
Listen, what they've done, both sides of this, when you hear from them afterward, they basically don't care. From Boston side, it's like, hey, they don't have all their guys yet. And from Cleveland side, it's, we don't know what we are yet. We got to get Isaiah Thomas into the flow there. There was a guy, because I heard, we had Brian Windhorst on our show, and then I heard him on another show talking about this game coming up, and not so much because Isaiah Thomas wasn't going to play, but he said, watch out for Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder is going to be really he didn't like the way it all ended in Boston. It didn't go well for Crowder at all. He was 2 of 12. Kevin Love was 1 of 11. I was watching that game. There was just brick after brick going up from those guys. So they were 3 of 23 overall. Cavs 88 points were a season low, and the Celtics just the time and time again are holding teams under 100 points, holding good teams under 100 points and getting the wins. Kyrie only 11 in this game.
I would say I think they've beaten each of the NBA's top 6 teams already this season and held all of them to under 100 points in those outings. So that's been the consistency. Even during the win streak, we said the offense really wasn't doing enough to win. It was the defense that clearly shined in that, and they're number 1 in defensive rating in the league right now, above Golden State, above San Antonio. They can hold that over, but I don't know. Does anyone really buy that this is going to matter when it matters?
I see. That's what I think last night. I mean, listen, the regular season, we know what it is, and we know, especially with teams like Boston, when we thought they lost Hayward, we thought, oh, they're going to be a year away, but they're playing extremely well. I think everybody believes, unless Washington or Toronto or somebody can kind of crash the party here, that it's going to be Boston and Cleveland playing in the Eastern Conference Championship. So the only thing Cleveland really is worried about right now is getting Isaiah healthy and getting him into the rotation.
And I hate using that as the metric, like can you beat Cleveland or can you beat Golden State? But
it is the metric.
That was the overwhelming feeling I got watching last night, because we get entertaining games in the regular season where teams will play with that playoff intensity, and we know last night wasn't that for a number of reasons, but it sort of made me sad, as entertaining as the NBA is and as many great stars as there are, to kind of know that ultimately that doesn't really matter.
Well, that's the difference in the NBA's regular season as opposed to the NFL's regular season or college football's regular season, because of the preponderance of games, you can't single out this game is critical. They're entertaining games and they're marquee matchups, but it doesn't have the same resonance as, hey, we got to win this game in the NFL or college football.
And this game last night, your leading scorer came off the bench in Terry Rozier, scored 20 in only 19 minutes of action. So it was not an offensive juggernaut.
And Mike, to your point about brick after brick, Kevin Love, 1 of 11, Dwayne Wade, 2 of 10, Jeff Green, 3 of 11, Jay Crowder, 2 of 12. And Love actually left that game in the third quarter with an ankle injury. I think it was a right ankle sprain. So that'll be something to watch for. It was nice, though, that, look, they didn't do a video tribute for Isaiah Thomas because he wasn't playing, but they put him up on the Jumbotron there, and you know what? He was very well received. It was really nice to see that that's sort of the way that all played out.
And it seemed like it got squared away with he and Danny Ainge. Remember, he said it wasn't going to talk to him anymore, and Ainge had texted him, and he said it's all good between them. So you hope it is.
Yeah, they smoothed it over, and we've heard more added to the saga around that trade from Kyrie Irving, talking about the fact that they tried to shop him in June.
Phoenix, I think, right?
To the Sun. So all these different things around there from the article that came out. I believe it was Jackie McMullen.
Yeah,
was that the article that came up on .com? So some interesting stuff there as the NBA continues to add to what really is and should be the business model. If you know what the outcome's going to be, you better at least make us care about the characters, and that's what they've done really well.
They certainly have, and the other issue there going forward, obviously, is what you were talking about, Mike, with keeping people under 100 points.
Yeah.
The issue for Cleveland is when they don't score 100, they don't win.
They don't do well.
Yeah, I think they're 0-5 this year when they don't get to 100 points, and obviously they did not get to 100 points last night.
Off the top.
And we move on to Off the Top, and as expected, at least for one of them, it was somewhat a little bit of drama about the other one, but both USC's Sam Darnold and UCLA's Josh Rosen, the top 2 draft-eligible quarterbacks according to Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay, within minutes of each other yesterday, both declared they will be in the 2018 NFL Draft.
So, I mean, you wonder, because a lot of talk about Sam Darnold, maybe he should go back the way he played this year. But there's that thought process. If you're going to be a top 3 pick, say a top 5 pick, I mean, because they say go back and get seasoned and get better. But I guess the other thought process is you're going to be a top 5 pick, get on a team and learn the NFL process and learn the NFL game. Why would you go back unless you want to try and improve your stock from 4 to 1, from 3 to 1? Top 5 pick, it's almost tough to say. I listen, because a lot of people didn't think Michael Vick was ready to come out and go to the NFL as a redshirt sophomore, got his 3 years in. He's going to need a number 1 pick in the draft. What are you going back for? I don't think there's any real reason to go back.
I'll get my seasoning while I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about insurance policies and crap like that. Like, give me the real money. I'm sick of getting paid in IOUs by the NCAA.
Yeah. That's what it seems to be, because a lot of people do think another year for Darnold, and, we've seen guys coming out early. Remember, Pete Carroll, what was it was it for Sanchez when he was kind of jumped him?
Yeah,
when Pete Carroll was coaching over there.
To come back for another year.
Yeah, another year, and it usually doesn't work out well when you're coming out early like that. And while Sanchez's teams went to the AFC championship games, he wasn't a big time throwing quarterback when that was going on. And you could see it didn't work out all that well for Sanchez. So a lot of people thought Darnold should go back. But I guess, like I said before, if you're going to be one of the top picks, I don't really know why you would do it.
Well, that's sort of the interesting thing there is what Sanchez is doing now is mentoring Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago. And I don't know if you saw that in the game they played at home against Cleveland. I think it was Week 16. They had Sanchez wired for sound for some reason, or maybe it was Trubisky, and he was picking up the audio when Sanchez was talking to him. He was giving him a little pep talk on the sidelines and doing it in a perfect John Gruden impression. It was really, really good. But to that point, Trubisky came out early, and now he's being mentored by a guy who came out a year early. But I think what we're seeing here with Darnold and Rosen and Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield and maybe Mason Rudolph and maybe Lamar Jackson, all these quarterbacks in this year's draft, I think that's why Trubisky came out, because he was the first quarterback taken last year, second pick overall. I'm not sure he would have been a first rounder had he come back and made and stayed for the 2017 season and played in the 28 and been a part of the 2018 draft, because he would have lost a lot of his weapons at North Carolina, and then the plethora of quarterbacks that you have ready in this year's draft. So he made a great business decision.
Yeah, he did, and it is that business decision that becomes more real when you get near the finish line. Like, these guys can look over the edge and finally see the life that can be theirs. It's a lot different when you talk about it during the season. I remember Will Fuller at Notre Dame during the year made that comment sort of, I think, offhand that, he was going to come back. He wasn't worried about it. And then you get the draft grade after the season. Yep. And then you start talking to your agents and your family, and these things start to materialize in a way that makes it really hard for anyone on like a human level. If you were shown this could be your life, this could be all the money, this could be the way you could work. And you know what? If you've got some deficiencies, we can work them and coach them out there whilst you're getting paid. Pretty hard to ignore.
Now, guys have 11 more days to decide if they're going to enter the draft or not. It's January 4th, January 15th is that magical day of when they have to decide what they're going to do. So the two big names, we've got Saquon Barkley,
right,
obviously, and these two big names, and it's going to be a whole lot of quarterbacks going on. And now comes the fun, because they will not put on pads again.
Nope.
Until training camp. Yet so much more will be said about them when they're practicing now and doing everything in shorts and a T-shirt.
Well, we got pro days coming up, and then you got the Underwear Olympics, the Combine, and all that kind of stuff, and that was indeed off the top. We'll get more into this now with these two quarterbacks. What do you feel about the January 15th deadline, by the way? It seems rather arbitrary.
Yeah. I know a lot. I don't think a lot of coaches like that a lot, especially they see that for players, just like we're seeing now, that going to bowl games, you see that on the horizon of what they're kind of preparing for. So you have to decide then. I mean, I love what the NBA did. The NBA, you could declare, you can go through workouts, and then you can decide to come back. I mean, they give kids options. I mean, for the NFL, what you basically do is you put your name in, you submit your name, and then as a GMs, I don't know who really does the evaluation process.
Yeah.
I think it's some GMs or former GMs or somebody does the evaluation process, and they let these guys know. They say you're slotted for the first round, or maybe 1 through 3, or hey, you should go back to school.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're a mid-round, a mid-draft guy. So they kind of give you an idea, and then you just basically have to go off that. And if you sign to go January 15th, that's it. That's it. You're done. You can't come back. And coaches certainly need to know that for the recruiting trail of, okay, we lost this guy, we need to fill his spot. But for the player himself, that's what I said. I kind of like basketball now. They let you kind of go through the process a little bit and then come back if you really don't like what you see.
The sports are just impossible to compare in that regard. You could never do that with football.
You couldn't do it.
It wouldn't be possible. So it's great that the NBA allows it. But for football, we know as well as anyone, you've got to be all in on this process. It's turned to you're measured by, I think, not as much being, how well you do in specific drills matters in a lot of positions, but it's how well prepared you appear coming off that. How well and how seriously do you take this process? And for Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen, where the physical drills aren't going to matter as much, it's how prepared are you for the interviews. For Josh Rosen, how prepared are you to answer a lot of the questions that anonymous sources are already popping off out there? Because I don't know if you guys have seen this. Anonymous sources are saying Josh Rosen is using football to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that about?
I mean,
isn't that why you play a professional sport?
And you
make money?
You play it. Theoretically, you'd like to think people enjoy it, but you know what? A nice big paycheck comes along with it, and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
There's two parts to this equation. To your point,
you play to win the game.
Right.
But then you play professional sports to win the games and get money.
You get paid.
There's nothing wrong with that.
If you're good enough to do anything, you don't do it for free.
Yeah. It's exactly right. So now we have the two quarterbacks out, and here's going to be the thing, and it's something we don't know. It's something we don't know. This is going to be, I'll tell you, the book right now is where we are. And I know we have to forget the Underwear Olympics, because if you're a guy.
By the way, that's the Combine.
That's
for people
the Combine.
That don't know what we're talking about. We refer to it as the Underwear Olympics.
I would like, I think there's a market for an actual Underwear Olympics.
I would think so as well.
There's a market for everything.
As we talked about, Pro Day, Combine, then all these individual workouts. If you're wearing shorts and a T-shirt and you don't throw the ball well, there's an issue. So that shouldn't be the issue. It's when you get to the whiteboard. It's when you're looking at film. It's how you break down the kind of has these people evaluating. But I'm going to tell you the breakdown, the overall breakdown of Rosen and Darnold right now. Rosen is better right now, but Darnold, the thought is he's better 10 years from now.
Well,
that's the thought process. I always say you don't draft for next year, you draft for the next 10 years. So if you think Darnold has the higher ceiling, then that's probably where you're going to go instead of the flash if you get it early on.
Well, to that point, I mean, some people are wondering, hey, Sam Darnold played much better last year than he did this year. Obviously, some of that was because of the way he lost some of his weapons from a year ago.
Oh, and his old line. He only got sacked 6 times 2 years ago. I think he got sacked 21 times this year.
And obviously, he didn't play his best game against Ohio State, and a lot of people are questioning, why is he coming out now? Well, to your point of what you just said, Todd McShay says, even with all the flaws in his game this season, if he had to choose between these two, he'd still take Darnold.
If I had to win a game tomorrow, I would take Josh Rosen. If I had to bet on the next 10 years, I would bet on Sam Darnold. When you look at Tom Brady, the Mannings, Aaron Rodgers, all the great ones, Drew Brees, he has a lot of those qualities that you look for in a quarterback. And while he's not as developed, and I do think he would have benefited from playing another year at the college level at USC, I just think that if you're looking 10 years down the road, I would bet on him.
And that's the issue, right?
That's the tough thing to project. You could say that and you draft on that, but the shinier piece, quite honestly, is Rosen. I think Rosen's a better quarterback right now. I think Rosen's the best passer coming out in this draft. He's that shiny, as I said, the shiny-looking guy, but there are the questions coming out about him, and this is the onion, the layers of the onion that get peeled back, especially on a quarterback, gets crazy from now until April.
And for Josh, it's going to be double so because of already the things that have been stockpiled throughout his career. The interesting thing I heard Todd on Spain and Fitz last night saying that he had heard from enough people that he trusted to where he was comfortable speaking this out, but that there were questions. We obviously know the ones about Josh's interest outside of football and how the myopic world of professional football doesn't really reward you having outside interests, but questions about how he treated his teammates and how he treated people inside the building. And to me, that's the part more worth exploring if you're these teams diving into that. And that's the stuff they will. They go around the building, they ask people, they do this in the interviews, so they're going to find out. And to me, that's much more important.
Well, look, this is, as we said, the beginning of this process, and there's going to be more about it, and there'll be more scrutiny over guys like Baker Mayfield. To some of your points about Josh Rosen, I don't care that he had a jacuzzi in his college room. I think that's tremendous, but some people, you're right, seem to have an issue with that. And this will be the process going forward with all these guys, and I always say, let's get one draft now and then the actual draft and see how different they are when no games are played between those two things.
Golic and Wingo,
The podcast.
Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr.
Hope you're having a good Thursday morning and glad you're spending part of it with us. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Trey Wingo with Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. It is a bitter, cold, snowy day up and down the East Coast. So, and also it's cold in other parts of the country. But wherever we are, if you're part of this, we hope you're doing okay and your driving to work is manageable as the winds and snow are picking up everywhere here. And that's going to be a big part of the discussions coming up a little later on this show as Good Morning America's Ginger Z will join us.
Yes.
So
she's
gonna, chief meteorologist.
She's going to have an issue with both of us.
Which is
we
fair.
were having a little fun yesterday, and word got to her about that. So she's going to have a little fun. Did you see Jim Cantore talking about Mike Trout?
Yes. How about that?
Mike Trout is, I guess, loves the weather. Cantore said there's no question he would have been a meteorologist if he wasn't a phenomenal baseball player. He really loves weather. He's a total geek about it, and it was great talking to him about it. I think that's fantastic.
He said, I've been talking to Mike Trout all week. He's so excited about this storm. Again, the bomb cyclone is what they're calling, which I'd never heard before. And I've grown up on the East Coast. I grew up in Connecticut. I've seen like Nemo a few years ago drop like 28 inches on us of snow. I've never heard the term bomb cyclone before, so I'm excited about that.
I haven't either.
To figure out what I thought the Night King from Game of Thrones might have come up with.
How can you be excited about that? It's going to dump. We're going to be out shoveling it later.
Yeah, well,
tired of shoveling.
You're coming by and shoveling my driveway, right?
The real issue, I understand, is the wind. The low-pressure system creating some sort of room for these fierce winds coming off the coast. It's coming up from Florida.
I learned all this when I got my meteorologist degree online last night.
See, that's why she's going to be angry with you.
And I should tell Trout the same thing. Mike Trout could have one by today as well.
See, Ginger's going to be very upset with you.
About what? What am I saying?
Meteorology is not that easy. Now, she's going to be upset with me because I think wind chill is a Jedi mind trick.
Yes.
It's
30
just all to make us feel worse.
If it's 30 degrees out and the wind chill is 10, it feels exactly the same.
The temperature is the temperature.
Oh, my gosh.
The ceiling is the roof.
For those of us that have walked to 5 a.m. workouts in the cold in South Bend, I can assure you the wind chill's a real thing. It's very real.
Oh, I'm sure it's real, but I just want to pretend like it isn't. See, it's all here.
Ginger's gonna yell at us.
She's gonna be very upset with us, and she has every right to be.
Yes, she does.
All right, so we'll get into that a little bit later, but let's start with what's trending. That's our sounder. I like that.
I do too.
How about Kyrie Irving?
Yeah.
Only 11 points, but listen, the best news for the Celtics, you didn't need a big Kyrie Irving performance as they crushed Cleveland as they held them to a season-low 88 points on Wednesday.
And I don't think anybody's taken a whole lot out of this game, at all. Outside of the defense that the Celtics play, they've been consistently great at defense, holding top teams to under 100 points this year. But they also know that Cleveland doesn't have Isaiah Thomas, who isn't fully healthy yet, and is going to be obviously a big part of that team. And Cleveland knows that as well. They don't have all their guys, not only on the court, but let alone healthy enough to be in their rotation. So this is one of those regular season games that you try and make. We had it earlier in the season to guys that switched teams when they played their former teams, like when Oklahoma City went to play the Pacers and then the Knicks, for Paul George and for Carmelo. You find those stories, which you mentioned earlier, and I agree with. In a sport where you kind of really know where the ending's going to be, at least with the last four, maybe even the last two. You got to find those things to put your hat on during the regular season. And we've been able to do that. Last year, Russell Westbrook with 1 million triple doubles and other storylines. And this year, with the players switching teams, and it's been the Knicks. It's been so. I do think the NBA has done a good job of that, of finding those storylines and those personalities.
Yeah, you've got visible stars. It's a beauty of a league without helmets, and a league where your fan base is a little more accepting of the, let's say, thoughts and opinions of the people inside the league. But no, that's been a good version of all this. It'll be interesting to see what these teams actually look like at full strength, because last night clearly seemed to be a bit of a dud. Kevin Love was a little dinged up during the game. They were coming on the second night of a back-to-back. Isaiah was out. So you had a lot of things that detracted from what could have been a very big game overall, and one I think we get to see again in February. I think
February
that was a date
11th.
point too.
February 11th, yeah.
In fact, Kyrie in his postgame actually referred to that. He's like, look, they didn't have all their guys. We're still trying to figure this all out. We'll get a much better sense of where we both are on February 11th. And I think that's what everybody needs to understand. That's what the NBA season is. I mean, there are certain checkpoints along the way getting to the postseason. And there can't be games that aren't entertaining and interesting, but importance in a single game in the regular season of the NBA doesn't really resonate. It's about an entertaining and a checkpoint spot more than anything else, correct?
Exactly. Taking stock in who you are as a team is a good point when you know you get to ratchet up the intensity.
And I am, for Boston going forward, and I've said this all along, I am a big fan of the way they are building. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are fun to watch. Brown is 21, Tatum is 19, and looking at what these guys are doing with their length, and they're able to run 1.68, the other 6'7". I mean, they are impressive.
Isn't Jason Tatum leading the league in 3-point percentage right now, or in 3-point shooting in some version of that category? I think he's the first rookie to do that in God knows how long. So it's an impressive run for those guys on a team that knew it was going to have to replace production when it lost Gordon Hayward.
They're shooting 47% from 3-point land right now. I mean, but they are set so nicely with Kyrie and those two guys, and Hayward can come back from his injury, and they are a good bunch for down the road. Something could it be this year? Could they give, depending on Cleveland, obviously, and the health of some of their guys and the rotation, once they get Isaiah Thomas in there, of everybody looking forward to it's like last year we looked forward to the matchup of Golden State and Cleveland, and this year maybe it's the Eastern Conference final matchup before we get to the finals. Can the Celtics do something to the Cavs?
Look, the thing that I find most impressive about what Boston has done is that they don't, Cleveland has to score 100 to win. I mean, they're 0-5 or 0-6, I think, this year when they don't score 100. The Celtics defense is tremendous. I mean, you look at the top, they've beaten everybody, they've been 5-0 this season against the current top 6 teams in the NBA. They held them all to under 100 points. You look at what happened last night. Kevin Love, 1 of 11. Dwayne Wade, 2 of 10. Jeff Green, 3 of 11. Jake Crowder, 2 of 12 in his return to Boston.
Yeah.
So that meant something to him, and maybe he was a little too amped up. But the way the Celtics have played defense this year, to me, is the most impressive thing they've done so far early in the NBA season.
By far.
Yep, I agree.
All right, we continue with what's trending. And
by the way, I hadn't heard that sounder before today. That's
you
intense.
Like it? We like it. It's like a really good game show sound from the 70s.
Yeah. We had 4 to pick from.
Hit it again. Yeah.
We had 4 to pick from.
You see?
Yeah, we had 4 to pick from. We went with this one.
Yeah, it like freaks me out because there's no imaging, there's no words, it's just those sounds, and it's like, oh, okay, it's over now.
Yeah.
You pay attention.
Yeah.
Hey, this is important.
This
Look over
is
here.
Trending.
Exactly. It's what's now. And also what's now is all of LA's quarterbacks are in the draft.
Yeah.
Within minutes of each other on Wednesday, USC's Sam Darnold and UCLA's Josh Rosen, the top 2 draft-eligible quarterbacks, according to Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay, declared for the 2018 draft. Not really a surprise for Rosen. Some people were a little taken aback that Darnold did declare after a rocky second season as a starter at USC.
Yeah, but most think he's going to go top 3, top 5 at the least, maybe top 3. Exactly. So what are you going back for? And then you talk about going back and getting more experience, but what was Mitch Trubisky, who started 13 games going back for and went number 2 in the draft? I mean, if you're going to go there, get paid and learn the NFL system, because the way you're playing quarterback in college is going to be a little different than the NFL, even though they're mirroring a little more to try and take advantage of what some of the college quarterbacks do well into the NFL. But it does seem like, Mike, for the start of the season, we were talking Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Mason Rudolph, those 4 guys. Now Baker Mayfield has jumped in, Lamar Jackson. It seems to me like Rosen and Darnold, it is them, and then who's going to be next? Has Baker Mayfield jumped up to be the number 3 quarterback? Is he going to be, or is it going to be Allen or Rudolph or Lamar Jackson? It seems to me as we go forward that Rosen and Darnold have kind of separated from the rest of those, right?
Yeah, I'm interested in the Lamar Jackson factor of this because he's a junior.
Right. He hasn't declared yet. He has till January 15th, right?
And you mentioned part of the reason that Mitchell Trubisky came out last year was in theory to maybe avoid this quarterback class of guys. Lamar Jackson,
he might do that.
You could come back, add to what could go down with another year as one of the best college careers from a quarterback we've ever seen. He improved on almost every version of his game this season.
He did.
Come back for another year and dodge the bullet on a lot of these guys that the league seems enamored with right now. I'll be interested to see what his decision ends up being.
Especially because even I think if he comes out, I don't think many are going to put him up with that class of guy, and the only thing he has now is shorts and a T-shirt, again, which they'll all look good in, so maybe it would behoove, because as I said, 1 through 3, why are you going back to college? If you're talking about end of first round or second round, well, with a bunch of quarterbacks as well, maybe it would behoove you to go back and be that guy for next year. So again, the date is January 15th that he has to decide if he wants to come out or not.
By the way, you just played the double behoove card.
I did. I went behoove twice.
You give me grief for saying things like penultimate or plethora or cornucopia, and you just dropped a double behoove. Double behoove within like a minute.
That's how I roll.
That's very strong.
Thank you.
It's you know what? You probably did that because you got your meteorological license.
Is that how you say it?
I have no idea.
I don't
Ginger
either.
will straighten this out.
She will.
She's not going to be happy with either one of us.
Not.
There's no way around
No,
it.
I know that.
All right, we continue. Listen to this. UCF says they're the champs. They are going all in on Queen. We are the champions, my friend. The school has decided to claim a national title to recognize its 2017 undefeated season. Will raise a banner, according to athletic director Danny White. Also, they're going to have a parade at Disney World. But most importantly, if you're going all in, you got to go Jim Fossil. My chips are into the center of the table. His bonuses are into the center of the table. They are paying every coach that was on that staff, and many of them are now going with Scott Frost to Nebraska, their bonuses that were in their contract had they actually won a national championship.
The game got Danny White on this one. Like Danny White thought he was gaming all of us. The game got Danny White because that was a last second, oh, wait a minute, by the way, one of the coaches is looking down at his contract. Wait a minute. We get paid off this too.
Yeah.
Definitely not any of these kids that are going to actually have to stay behind and deal with the aftermath of this and another coaching change coming through and not actually get a national championship trophy. Hopefully they at least get them rings.
Yeah, but because you're right. I mean, you make this big stink about we're the national champions, and then maybe a coach says, well, wait, we get this bonus then. What do you say then? Well, hey, you're not really a national champion.
Yeah,
we're just kind of doing this for the program. You know what we're doing here. But they didn't. So to their credit, they went all in on this. I don't have a problem with it. Paul Feinbaum does have a problem with it. He's going to join us a little later in the show. He think it kind of demeans what's going on now. I don't think it does.
Does if you let it.
As they're saying, UCF, they're trying to build their program, so go ahead, enjoy yourself, do your thing, and I'm sure those that want college players to be getting paid are really happy that the coaches are getting that bonus now, and the players are going, What did we get out of this?
We get more cream cheese for the bagels now? Is that how
you
this
get
works?
a T-shirt and a hat
That's
for
exactly
that Peach
right.
Bowl. Congratulations.
Peach Bowl. Peaches for a year.
The shirts don't even say national champions. They just say Peach Bowl.
Hey, listen, everybody play to your strengths, okay? Here's the deal. To me, this national championship pseudo affecting people, it's like wind chill. Mind over matter.
Right.
Just mind over it. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, keep going, aren't you?
All right, we continue Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. We have to do something now.
Yeah.
I have no interest in doing it.
Come
but
on!
I was told I have to. Here it is.
It's time to try Trey.
So apparently, people think it's... What was that? Did I miss
That was
something?
just a great ending.
Wait, can you play it again?
That was really good.
It's time to try Trey.
That's awesome.
Where did I miss the meeting where someone's like, you know what this needs at the end? A little stank. Let's put a little stink on it.
That was really
Tiny
good.
horn.
There you go.
Try Trey is brought to you by Discover Card, who will match all the cash back on new card members, what they earn at the end of their first year. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations do apply. Since you're the new guy on this show, right, we're going to do a little Try Trey, little conversation starters just to kind of get to know you a little bit and kind of where your thought process is. Mike and I may jump in on some of these as well.
I like your Try Trey profile picture on the screen behind us right there.
Again, very nice.
It looked good on your Farmers Only account.
That was supposed to be for email.
For
I don't know
email.
what that was
We're
about.
doing it for Try Trey.
They did the Jedi mind trick on me.
All right, so here we go. We're going to try you, Trey. Kind of conversation starter type things. Are you
Gotcha.
more of an indoor or an outdoor person?
Definitely outdoor. Anytime I can get outdoors.
'Cause you're a golf guy,
yeah,
right?
I love golf. But like yesterday, it was up to 22, which was a heat wave here.
Yeah.
So it would have been 4, so I went out running yesterday afternoon.
Long
You
walks
did?
Yeah, absolutely.
Long walks on the beach?
Absolutely.
All right.
Anything with the beach, I'm good with. But yeah, definitely, especially in the wintertime, anytime I can get outdoors, I'm outdoors. I want to be outside.
I think we're all outdoor people.
Yeah, no, like that.
Real-
Real,
there?
real man's
Absolutely
man
right.
out in nature.
Well, those are different things.
Stop with the man's man. Easy. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, this is bad for me.
Yeah.
When the show started, I changed my Twitter profile to say not really a morning person.
Yeah.
So this has been a life adjustment.
So you're a night owl.
I could stay up till 3 every night very easily. This has been hard on the old soul. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
Trey was used to sending the "you up" text. Now we're sending him text to make sure he's actually up.
That's totally different. Yes,
I can't remember the last time I stayed up, I think, past midnight. I've been doing this for way too long.
That was a nightly occurrence.
So it's very easy now that I know I'm a morning person. You're a night owl who is now forced to be a morning person.
Help me.
All right, we're trying Trey here. If there was an Olympics for everyday activities, this is actually a good one for everybody out there as well. I do like this one. What activity would you have a good chance at winning a medal in?
Oh,
so again, Olympics for everyday activities, what would you be so good at that you could win a medal in?
Well, and in that way, I'm simpatico with George Costanza. I can find the best parking spot.
Really?
In fact, my nickname in the family is the Par King. I can
Really?
find the parking spot. You always have to be an optimist. Like when you go to the airport,
right? And
like for example, at our airport, level 3 is the same level as the walkway, so you don't have to go up and down the elevator with your luggage or your golf bags or whatever. I will always park on level 3, and I'll find one closest to the actual door. You have to be an optimist when you're finding a parking
That's impressive.
space.
That is a good everyday activity. I do like
King.
that.
You would place dead last in that, by the way. No one is better at finding the parking spot furthest from where we have to go than this man.
I will circle the block for 30 minutes to find the best spot.
I make up for
I
it
will do that.
because my Olympic activity, this would be in Mike and Mike show. We just go to page 10 and hit the porn bed. That's what I would do for myself.
All right,
that's what I would do.
I see. So
But we're not going to.
I look behind the glass, and I am begging off air for the porn bed music.
No,
and
that's my music.
I am told no, we can't. Disney won't approve of that. When I've had to hear this for years in reference to my parents.
Yeah.
Afternoons. I just, you know what? I don't need this. I'm not being supported right now.
None of us need that, so let's do this. Gets it out of our head.
Here we go.
Out of our system right there.
We're trying Trey. Trey, if you could go back in time as an observer, no one could see you, and you couldn't interact with anything, when would you want to go back?
So to see a specific thing or an era are we talking about?
I think a thing. To go back, you wouldn't be seen. You could just go observe it. What would you want to go back and see?
Well, I'm a huge fan of history, so that would be very difficult for me. I mean, most of the books I read are about historical things that actually happened and the stories behind them. So I guess Like, one thing that would be really cool, I would love to have gone to the 36 Olympics and see Jesse Owens just smoke everybody.
Oh, wow,
See the entire belief system just completely crumble. That would have been pretty cool. I think that would have been all right. I really like history. So any specific moment in history, quite frankly, good or bad, just to be there and be a part of it, I think that would be pretty cool.
Do you have one for that?
I'm either going Area 51 or the actual UFO crash in Roswell, New Mexico.
Okay.
But Area 51 is not it's a thing, but it's not it's not a point in time.
Well, no, it's not a point in time, but if you could go back as an observer and see anything without anyone being able to see you or interact, that's the perfect way to go in and see the real Area 51. So I'll go back to when we were at the height of UFO stuff, right around the Roswell, New Mexico
That would be
crash.
cool. That would be pretty cool.
Going back and seeing them actually like sign the Declaration of Independence. That would be kind of cool.
I think I'd go back to the first gladiator battle.
That would be going a ways.
Yeah. Man.
By the way,
Last Supper.
Every once in a while, people ask me about my favorite stadiums, and I always put the Coliseum. I mean, it was the Roman Coliseum.
Yes, it was
the original. I mean, it was the big one.
I go back to the Last Supper, be like, this Judas guy, I don't know.
Yeah, a little sketchy.
Pass the bread. We'll see what happens.
Got a weird look in his eye.
We'll play this one out.
All right, here, next one. Trey, what household chore is the worst?
All of them. They're all terrible.
Do you have one that you're particularly bad at?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah. I am an undomesticated animal.
Really?
Yeah.
So you don't really do anything?
I try not to.
Okay.
Yeah.
My thought has always been that's what kids are for.
I agree. That's what they're here for. That's the payback.
All right.
These are really good first date questions. I'm going to have to file a few of these away.
What odd talent do you
Swipe
have?
right on Trey.
Zero.
You have no odd talent.
Well, I used to be able to burp the alphabet, but that was a long time ago.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
ABCD.
Oh my God!
Wow,
that's on command.
Impressive.
Where did you pull that from?
I like that a lot.
I drink a lot of carbonated beverages.
That's the morning Trey
help.
Diet Coke special coming to work right there.
Might help. Actually, Coke Zero, but separate.
Coke Zero.
I'm going to jump down a few.
Cheribundi.
Okay.
Who's your
also good?
Who's your favorite actor or actress?
I have a couple of those. When I was a kid, two of my favorite movies were The Sting and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I saw them. My parents' favorite movie, so I love Robert Redford would be way up there.
Okay.
John Cusack in the formative years, I thought he was tremendous.
Right.
Leo right now, it's hard to go against Leo DiCaprio right now.
I'd probably
Pretty
go.
rock solid.
I think two of my favorites are Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington.
Yeah, can't go wrong with either one of those.
Classics.
Those guys.
Totally agree.
I'm a big Gene Wilder fan. I'll put Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka up with any character in movie history.
Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka was great, although you watch it as a kid, it freaks you out. It freaks you out. But Gene Wilder, he had all those great movies with Richard Pryor that they did together, which were a lot of fun.
All right, let's do one more.
Okay.
Your biggest pet peeve?
Animals dressed as humans.
You see a lot of that?
No, that's just a line from the TV show Friends. Pet peeve, I don't know. You guys got that, right? All the people behind the glass got that. Thank you very much.
You threw it out there so quickly.
90s kids, you're talking to a decidedly Friends crowd in here.
Exactly. Long story short, there was an episode where they had a contest to see who would win the bet. And one of the questions was, "What's Monica's pet peeve?" And it was animals dressed as humans.
Okay.
So whenever I see pet peeve, that's the first thing.
Do you have a real pet peeve though?
I don't know. Not really. I mean, I don't have one thing that drives me nuts.
No. Okay.
Do you have one? Do you have one thing that drives you crazy?
Listen, I've said it for years and years and years. I'm kind of that straightforward guy. If we're going to have a conversation, we're going to have a conversation face to face. I'm not into a lot of the innuendo and just from that.
Shoot it to me straight.
Just shoot it to me straight. Yeah. Tell it to me straight.
So in other words, people that try and massage the message.
Yeah, just tell it to me straight. I'm that kind of go in the room, close the door, and have a conversation type of a guy.
My pet peeve is people who overuse the word epic.
Yeah.
Who does that?
That would be me. I think, right? I think that would be right. At least I didn't overuse the word behoove.
I did.
Twice in a 60-second span.
I did.
All
right, that's a little bit of try Trey. If you have whatever any of your answers were to some of those questions, you can tweet us at Golick and Wingo, at Wingos, at ESPN Golick, at MGolick Jr. 57.
I'm your son. You should know it.
I know. I should know.
Well,
but that's
it
just
is the most ridiculous
handle.
long Twitter handle of all time.
That's fair. Yeah.
You got bailed out when they went to 280.
Honestly, that should have been.
You got bailed out when they went to 280.
My Twitter handle should be your guy's pet peeve.
Yeah, that is very true.
Honestly, I'll adopt that.
Yeah.
There you go.
I will accept that.
We found you a peeve.
We know what Ginger Z's pet peeve is.
Us.
Golick and Wingo, the podcast. What a day, what a show, what a time.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night. Yeah. No doubt about it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Stu, I know we got a lot to get to, but before we get into the questions that we did have, is there a place you could eat for 426 days straight?
Trey, not for the serious stuff, for this stuff.
This is more important.
Carlo, Yes, Carlos Pizza in Port Washington, the town I grew up in on Long Island. Yes, I could eat there for 426 consecutive days. It's the best pizza I've ever had.
Now, is this thin crust, like good New York-style pizza?
Yeah, it is thin crust. It's New York style. It's fantastic. I moved down here in '97 to South Florida. And by the way, Trey, 2:42 tea time today. Okay,
why you got to rub it in?
I know you're dealing with some weather issues up there, but a 2:42 tea time for me today, and it will be about 62 degrees when I tee off. So I'm just. But yes, it is thin crust pizza. It is New York style pizza. When I moved down here in '97, the biggest change for me was the pizza's just not as good down here in South Florida as it is up there in New York because of water issues or whatever. That's what at least they sell us on, that the crust and the bread isn't as good. But Carlos is the best I've ever had. It's in Port Washington. I could eat there for 400. I could eat there for the rest of my life, every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'm with you on the pizza, especially the thin crust, having grown up in New York and Connecticut. I'm with you 100%. By the way, I have a tea time at 2:42 also on April 5th.
Yeah.
That'll be my next round here. So congratulations, you're winning that one. Oh,
Thank
man.
you. And by the way, Trey, you do not believe in wind chill. Did I hear that correctly? Are you not a believer in wind chill?
Jedi mind trick. If you don't mind, it don't matter. I just want to know what the temperature is. That way I'm just focusing on the temperature.
Okay, because in some odd world, if I was trying a case against people who didn't believe in wind chill, I would simply hold up a picture of Tom Coughlin's face at Green Bay, NFC Championship game when it was Brett Favre's final game as a Packer. I would hold up Tom Coughlin's face as proof that it does exist.
Well, it was -3 in that game, so that might be more about the temperature than the actual wind chill. But I hear what you're saying.
That serious wind chill, not like the potential wind chill of 62 degrees, wind chill 59 when Stugotz is teeing off today. All right, Stugotz, listen, you guys are down there in Florida, a little bit of ways from where UCF is in Orlando, where they're going to hold their parade on Sunday for their mythical national championship, of which they're going to have a banner. They're paying their coaches their national championship bonuses. What has been your guys' thought process about that, being down there in Florida and what they're doing?
We've had fun with it the entire year. Dan has been saying that UCF is the best team that he has seen in college football. He's basically been saying that the entire year. So you got to give him credit because he's not saying it after the fact. Dan has been saying this all the way through, and on our show, we've kind of all just mocked him for saying it, but it's kind of hard to argue right now. So we're having a lot of fun with it. They're having fun with it. If people like Paul Feinbaum want to take it seriously, that's on Paul for taking it seriously. That's not on anyone else. UCF is having fun. We're going to have fun with it. I think we're going to be part of the parade next week. There are all kind of plans being discussed down here in South Florida with how we're going to be a part of this whole thing. I think Levitard is presenting them with a national championship trophy because in Dan's personal record book, you guys know I have my own personal record book where like Kevin Durant still hasn't won a title because he chose the easy path to go to Golden State. He couldn't beat him, so he joined him. And in my record book, he doesn't have a title. Well, in Dan's personal record book, UCF has won the 2017 College Football National Championship. I think it's fun. It's kind of hard to dispute, right? They beat the team that beat both the teams that are playing for the actual national championship on Monday.
Oh no, I would dispute it. I would say Dan was wrong all year in saying UCF was the best team. I don't believe that. But
Mike, they're undefeated. They beat Auburn.
Yeah, I know they are, but they're not the best team in the country. But okay. Listen, I completely am with you, having fun with this. But also, what do you think? And do you think UCF is trying to accomplish something with this as well, sending some kind of message? Because we all know they're not going to be the national championship. But along with all the things that we said they're going to do you think they're trying to send in a serious tone some sort of message either about their conference or about the way the playoffs are run right now?
Yeah, I have no doubt that they are because, listen, it's unfair that we have the only undefeated team in college football, a team that has beaten Auburn again, who beat both the teams that are going to play for the national championship. I mean, listen, no one can sit here and say they don't know if UCF can beat either Georgia or Alabama. You can't say that. You can't say that, hey, you can't say Alabama would blow them out. You can't say Georgia would. You just simply can't say that. So I think, yes, UCF is trying to send the message that this thing needs to get expanded out to 8 teams. Have the 5 Power 5 conference winners get in, maybe 3 at-large bids. I do wonder, guys, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. If we did have that system in place, if we had that system in place where it was an 18 playoff, the 5 power conference winners got in, you had 3 at-large bids, do you think the committee would have voted UCF in as one of those at-large bids this year? Do you think that would have happened?
We actually ran those numbers.
Well, in another way, we ran the old BCS system. We put the BCS computers into play, and they came out and we extended it to 8 playoffs. the exact same top 8 right now in the college football committee would be the top 8 in the BCS, just a different order. UCF in the BCS system would have been number 9. So they would have been on the outside looking in. But to your point, if they ever go to 8, I do think there will be actual parameters. Conference champions, at a couple, maybe 2 at-large bids, and then there may be a spot reserved for an undefeated non-Power 5. I don't know. I don't know what the parameters are going to be, but there will be different parameters outside of just we're going to extend it from 4 to 8, and we're just going to let the 13 people decide who the 8 are instead of the 4.
Right. Listen, regardless, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see this thing get expanded out to 8. And I do think that UCF is absolutely sending a message. And twofold here, guys. One, like, hey, what do we have to do as a non-Power 5? What do we have to do to get into the Final Four, to get into the college football playoff? And then I think more importantly, if you want to prevent guys like Scott Frost from going undefeated, from building this program in 2 years at UCF, to getting them to a place where they're undefeated, where they're actually in the discussion, where they're beating teams like Auburn in a bowl game, if you want coaches like Scott Frost to stay at UCF, then you have to expand this thing out, because Scott Frost is leaving simply because he loves Nebraska. He played there. I get it. But he is leaving simply because he knows UCF has no shot of making it to the college football playoff.
Well, that's exactly right. As Stu Gatz is with us from the Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz that follows us on ESPN Radio. Stu, you mentioned it. He's leaving because he knows the limitations there, but you seem to have an issue with how people are saying Scott Frost handled this the right way?
Yeah, because the bar has been set so low for these coaches. It has been set so low where just staying with your team through the bowl game is something that we celebrate. I mean, he kind of has an obligation to stay with that team through the bowl game at the very least. I understand why guys leave, but the fact that we're applauding Scott Frost for doing this the right way. No, we're doing this, all of it, and all of us are doing this the wrong way. The coaches, the NCAA, media outlets, everyone is making money off of kids who are doing all the work and making no money. We're all doing this the wrong way. And to applaud Scott Frost for merely staying through the bowl game with his team, which I doubt he would have done had his team had 3 or 4 losses headed into that bowl game. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It is a good job by Scott only because the bar has been set so low by other coaches who have bailed on their teams before the bowl game. It's not something we should be applauding.
I want to be with you here. I want to be with you on this point, but you're kind of losing me, because basically what you're saying is everyone else is doing the wrong thing and Scott Frost is doing the right thing, yet somehow you're mad at Scott Frost for doing the right thing.
No, I'm mad at all of us for having a bar set so low that we're applauding a guy who merely stayed with his kids through a bowl game. That's ridiculous. Trey, is that not ridiculous?
Well, I think he did
with his team, and we're like, hey, Scott Frost, you did it the right way. You did the right thing. You know what he did? He got that team to an undefeated record. He got that team into a national championship discussion. He talked about, after beating Auburn, he said, listen, it's about the kids. It's always about the kids. What did he do to those kids? After they went undefeated and worked really hard for him, he left those kids and went to Nebraska because there are better kids there.
But you just said you understand why he would do that.
The way the system is set up here, where Trey, he doesn't have a chance to get, the whole system is flawed. The whole way we're doing this is flawed. The reason I understand it is because Scott Frost is sitting there going, wow, I went undefeated. I beat Auburn. I beat the team who beat the 2 teams who are playing for a national championship, and I still can't get into the college football playoff. Therefore, I have to go up to Lincoln, Nebraska, because that's going to give me I'm going to get more money there, but it's also going to give me a better shot of getting to the ultimate dream, and that's winning a national championship.
Listen, and we all
it's wrong. It's flawed.
There's no one's denying that part of it. Let's be clear.
And quite honestly, it's a reason Lane Kiffin is going to spend another year or 2 at FAU, because he's going to continue to hit if he goes undefeated, he's not getting in. He's going to hit a glass ceiling. So, and so eventually he's going to move on. Nick Saban also was talking about after this game, he's not real happy with the way the timing works out, that his players, it's not good for the players, for how quick the turnaround is, that they have to get back on the plane, get back down to Georgia and get ready for the title game. What are your thoughts? I heard you going off a little bit, and from what I understand, the players in Alabama were listening to you go off about the whole situation.
Yeah, they were in the players' lounge with Marty Smith as I was going off on their on their head coach, Nick Saban. I'd like to know if any of them agree with me. I doubt we're ever going to find that out.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. They are probably terrified of Nick Saban. Listen, for me, I just never heard Nick Saban talk about this before, and he's saying this is about the players. He cares about the players. And perhaps yesterday I went a bit overboard because that's what I tend to do on our radio show. I'll go overboard where I said Nick doesn't care about his kids. I'm certain Nick cares about his kids, but I promise you this. Nick Saban cares more about Nick Saban than he does about those kids. He cares more about Nick Saban, the legacy of Nick Saban. He cares more about himself than he does those kids. I'm okay with you using the platform to try to promote something that's good for the kids, but since you have the most powerful voice or one of the most powerful voices in sports, why don't you use the platform rather than use it to say, hey, we need more time between games, which I've never heard him say before, and he's also saying it at a convenient time where half his defense is injured, so he could use the time right now to get himself healthy to play the University of Georgia. But use the platform for something important, not more time between games. How about, hey, these kids are working really hard. I'm making $7 to $8 million. They're making nothing. Let's get the players played. If you want to use, let's get them paid. If you want to use the platform, use it for something important like that. Not, hey, week between games. Nick Saban has never criticized. And for as long as Nick Saban has been coaching football, he's played a game every 7 days. That's the way it works. He doesn't care about that.
Well, look, nothing happens in a vacuum. It was a year ago, Nick Saban was saying, hey, you need to be in the conference, you need to win a conference championship to be in the playoff. And this year his lobbying was, we didn't win a conference championship, but we're one of the best 4 teams. So you're right. Nothing happens, by itself. Everything is surrounded by context. And are we going to see some of these context points that you're talking about here as you guys are part of the megacast coming up for the national championship game?
No, you won't see any of that. There will be nothing intelligent. There will be no good points. There will be nothing coherent. We're just
way to promote it, by the way. Way to promote it.
But Trey, I think that's what our listeners, the people who like our show, I think that's what they want. They just want the nonsense. So I can't imagine, I think Dan's going to be watching a re-air of the of the UCF Auburn game. I mean, so there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on. So we'll see. We'll have some fun with it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I promise you, unless we get someone in there who actually knows anything about football, there will be no serious breakdown of the game going on.
That'll be an interesting tune-in. I'm not going to, I'm sure there are some people that are saying, oh my God, Stugotz, that's not the way to sell this thing. I'm kind of intrigued now to kind of flip over there and say, I wonder what they're going to be talking about.
Counter-programming.
Yeah.
Yes. Listen, anyone who loves our show and listens to our show, Dan Le Batard show on right after you guys 10 to 1, we're just going to try to do it in the spirit of what we always do, in the spirit of our show. We're just going to have fun with it. Yes, we'll talk a little bit about the game as it's going on, and I'm certain I'll have some hot takes during it, but we're just going to have fun. We're going to be ourselves. It's what we've always done, and it's what we're going to continue to do.
Stugotz with us on Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. Phone guest joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Stu, you mentioned you're going to have some fun with this. You are a long-suffering Jets fan. We all know that. You've now had 2 quarterbacks declare for the draft, Sam Darnold out of USC, Josh Rosen out of UCLA. As a long-suffering Jets fan, do you have a preference of either one of these guys?
Whichever one they take, Trey, will be the wrong one.
Are you sure? Are you 100% sure?
I have 30 years of being a Jet fan behind me, Trey. Yes, they will. They didn't take Dan Marino. They took Ken O'Brien.
Ken was serviceable. Everybody passed on Marino, though. I mean, to be fair, everybody passed on Marino.
I understand that. Well, a lot of teams passed on Ken O'Brien as well, Trey. They took serviceable over the greatest quarterback ever. I just have no faith in this organization. So, and plus the Jets, they did the absolute worst thing this year, Trey. They won just enough games to not be in play for either of these guys. So it's perfect.
So maybe you'll find yourselves in the Baker Mayfield sweepstakes.
And that will be the wrong choice as well.
It's important to be consistent, Stu. And if nothing else, you are indeed, as a long-suffering, just-end-the-season fan, consistent. Yeah. Stu, we appreciate it. Stu. We'll look forward to your show today, and we're going to tune into the Megacast just to see what you guys are talking about.
All right, try to enjoy your tea time in April.
It may be May, actually. Now I'm really depressed. I hope you shoot a 94.
Yeah. He won't care. He's still golfing.
That's true. He wins. Stu. He wins. Thanks, Stu.
All right, guys.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold.
It's very interesting where that went.
Adam, first of all, what do you have, like 8 dogs? What is it, 8?
We have 4, Trey. We had 5. We lost 1. My wife would like to get 15 more if she could. I put the limits on that. Essentially, we had 2 when we got married, got a 3rd. We discussed the idea of more. She wanted a 4th. I said, no, I don't want a fourth. So we compromised. We got a fourth, and then we got a fifth, and now we're back down to four.
And just so you know, there will be another one coming. You might as well prepare for that eventuality. Okay, we've been talking a lot about the bomb cyclone, the bomb ogenesis that is hitting us. You're on Long Island, and there are actually blizzard warnings up for part of Long Island, right?
Yeah, it's nasty out right now. Obviously, no kids, no school, kids at home, dogs at home, everyone locked up. It's going to be a great day here, Trey.
I can just see, I can see and hear the enthusiasm in your voice, Adam.
Oh yeah.
We'll get past your melancholy with the weather right now and deal with the NFL. Listen, we had John Gruden on the show yesterday, and he basically said if they offered them a job, he's going to take it. As you told us, that would play out. But he said there was absolutely nothing to the idea of ownership. When you heard him say that as part of his deal to become the coach, what went through your mind?
A couple of things. First of all, again, that idea has come up in the past between the Raiders and John Gruden. It came up a few years ago when they also spoke to him. It came up this time. It's not going to happen in the deal, but that doesn't mean that it didn't come up as a point of discussion. Again, I think it would have met a lot of resistance from the Finance Committee, and it certainly sounded more like he objected to Stephen A. Smith's comments than he did to the actual idea that this could have been considered an ownership stake because, again, it did come up. Didn't like what Stephen A. said. I don't know what Stephen A. said on First Take. I'd have to go back and listen to that. But, again, this has come up between he and the Raiders in the past. It has come up again. It is not expected to happen this time. You heard it from the horse's mouth himself, but this will be a record-setting deal in its own way.
Stephen A. said that Gruden didn't deserve to have part ownership, but more than a few people have said that. I said that as soon as it happened, and it's not about Gruden not deserving it. I said I don't think any coach should get ownership, and I don't think any owner would approve of a coach from another team getting ownership. Why would they want to do that? So that was the issue I think Gruden got mad at, but as I said, I've said that and others have said that. Well, I would never give a coach ownership in a team.
Well, let me say something. It would have been incredible to see John Gruden get ownership because it would have changed the game. It would have opened the floodgates. It would have been a situation where every year when we are entering into this coaching cycle period and every year where there's a hot guy and there are teams vying for that particular candidate, it would have been a situation where if John Gruden once got ownership, well, maybe others can. And then what could Nick Saban get if he ever decided he wanted to go back to the NFL? What could Bill Belichick ever get if his contract grew up? What would Mike Tomlin get if he decided to leave the Pittsburgh Steelers? John Gruden, in that regard, could have changed the game for everybody. And I think that's why the Finance Committee and other owners would have frowned upon anything that would have come up like this because that's not something that they want introduced into any coach's contract because the precedent it set would be incredible. And so, again, it's not going to happen. It was discussed. It did come up. It's not the first time it's come up. And John Gruden will be compensated in other ways. Trust me.
Yeah, it'll work out okay for him. I think he'll be able to pay the bills just fine. The news that really, I think, stunned us all was the fact that Marvin Lewis signs a 2-year extension with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Adam. I mean, I've always believed in giving a coach more time than less time, so you're not changing every 2 to 3 years. But 15 years, 0-7 in playoffs, boy, there's got to be a line for everything. And it seems like they're just accepting the fact that, hey, we're a mediocre organization and we're kind of going to stay that way when everybody loves Marvin Lewis, but you really have to shake your head at this one.
Well, listen, this is a situation where both sides looked at what was out there and what the alternatives were, and both sides decided that they were better off with each other. That's really what happened here. Look, the plan for Marvin Lewis's end with his contract being up was to leave the organization. Now, the plan also was to sit down with Mike Brown. And when he sat down with Mike Brown, and they both considered what was out there, and believe me, they both considered what was out there, and were considering it until the Bengals made that announcement on Tuesday afternoon that Marvin had agreed to that extension. They both were exploring other things that were out there, that this was something that they were both better off doing. The Bengals assistant coaches were quite surprised that this deal got done and quite pleased because they know the type of man that Marvin is and what he's meant to that organization. But I think there were a lot of people that did not expect this to get done, including me. And it did get done in the end, ultimately, because when both sides looked out there and decided and debated what they could do without the other, they both got scared and both decided they were better off with each other.
All right, Adam Schefter with us on Golic and Wingo, our ESPN NFL insider. So there isn't an opening in Cincinnati. There are openings in both New York and Chicago, two of the bellwether franchises in the NFL that have fallen on hard times. What are you hearing about where these searches for these two teams and their head coaches might go?
Well, listen, you heard the Giants owner John Mara talk about the fact that he'd like a head coach with experience. He'd like somebody that's been a coordinator for a long time. And I think the names that you keep hearing are Matt Patricia, Jim Schwartz. Those are two names that are right there, along with Steve Wilkes, the Carolina Panthers defensive coordinator. Again, they're going to look at a lot of different names. Those are the names that, to me, seem to resonate. And in Chicago, I think it's about who they can get that's going to grow Mitchell Trubisky. Who can they get? That's not going to be Sean McVay, okay? Because Sean McVay isn't out there again, but could have the same type of result on their young quarterback who was the top quarterback picked in last year's draft. They need to salvage Trubisky and elevate his talents and make sure that he performs to his potential, in much the way that Sean McVay did that with Los Angeles, and you saw the results that brought along. I think Chicago wants to go with an offensive-minded head coach. I know they spent yesterday interviewing Vic Fangio, their defensive coordinator this year, and Vic Fangio is one of the great defensive minds in the league and has plenty of opportunities and will get to do what he wants. But I think in the end, the Bears would like to go with an offensive-minded head coach, be it Pat Shurmur or John DeFilippo, the Eagles quarterbacks coach, or Josh McDaniels, or some offensive-minded head coach that can help elevate Trubisky's play.
Shefty, with so many players making so much big money and now getting into ownership with Derek Jeter, with the Marlins, and something that's kind of been put on the back burner because it can't happen until the end of the season is the Carolina Panthers are going up for sale. Any word on any, names? Because normally you hear of ownership groups, we don't know any of the names. They're just billionaires. Any names out there of people that, well-known people jumping in with these groups for the possibility of buying the Carolina Panthers?
You know, I've asked that, and the only thing that they've decided so far right now are the financial firm, the New York firm, and the law firm that are going to be involved in the sale. Jerry Richardson's been very adamant and steadfast in saying that we are not going to put this team up for sale until our season is complete. Now, that season could end on Sunday. To think that there aren't groups exploring the idea would be naive. But I don't know of any names right now that they're actively involved in with talks, because I don't believe there are any active talks right now. I believe this is a process that's going to heat up once Carolina's season comes to an end, whenever that may be.
Adam Schefter with us. Adam, we talked a little bit earlier. Darnold and Rosen both declare for the draft. The Browns and the Giants 1-2 picks right now in this draft. Do you think we're looking at maybe quarterbacks going 1-2 for the third time in the last 4 drafts?
That's always a good bet, Trey. I think you're always safe saying that. I mean, if we go back to a couple of years ago, we saw Goff and Wentz go 1-2. The year before that, we saw Winston and Mariota go 1-2. It is hard for me to fathom how the Cleveland Browns can bypass a quarterback in the first round of the draft this year after trading away the rights to Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson. Look, that's a primary reason that John Dorsey is in the position he's in today in Cleveland, is because this franchise thought it could go get cute and go get a quarterback at a different time and stockpile picks. At some point, you got to use some of these picks on a quarterback you believe in. And when you've got the top pick in the draft that Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen have declared for, that Josh Allen's going to be in, that Baker Mayfield's going to be in, I don't care if you're Cleveland, you got 1-4. I had someone suggesting the other day, here's what Cleveland should do. They should go Saquon Barkley at 1 and then come back at 4 and go get Baker Mayfield or the quarterback they like there. And I said, that would be, in my mind, ridiculous, in the sense that you've got the Giants, who are going to be interested in the quarterback, the Colts at 3, who could trade out. You're going to try to get cute at that point in time again with a quarterback? How's that worked out in the past? Look, they have to do whatever they feel is best. If they think Saquon Barkley is the best player at 1 and he's going to help the franchise, and you want to come back to a quarterback at 4, fine, that's a gamble you can go take. But I think this franchise has shown long enough over time that it shouldn't get cute on quarterbacks. And if one of these guys, Darnold or Rosen, is the guy that John Dorsey recognizes that he likes atop the draft, time to turn in the card.
Well, Adam, we've kept you away from the problems with the weather and the dogs at home as long as we can. We appreciate you being with us. Stay strong. Stay safe, my friend, all right?
Can I co-host till 10?
Yeah. We'll have you back on NFL Live later. Is that good?
Okay, great.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. Make sure to subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, and to listen every weekday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app.